These are the topics that I'm intending to discuss today. The majority of apartments that are bought and sold are unit titles, and a lot of the discussion that we have today will be about issues pertaining to unit titles. And the first of these is long-term maintenance plans. The Unit Titles Act requires that bodies corporate must establish long-term maintenance plans, and the statute and the regulations provide some guidance as to the types of things that might be in a plan and some specific requirements. But it's clear that the level of detail that's provided in a plan will vary depending on the size and the complexity of the body corporate and the development and the expectations of the owners. And that seems to me to be entirely appropriate. For example, just within the last couple of weeks, I've helped out with the finalising of a unit title subdivision on one of the islands in the Hauraki Gulf. There were only 4 or 5 houses involved, and it was a little unusual in that it was a rural subdivision. And the houses were all standalone. The unit title plan in relation to that the long-term maintenance plan in relation to that simply related to the regrading of the gravel driveway and the odd weed, making sure that the weeds were removed. And you could understand that that level of detail might be appropriate there, but of course something far more refined and specific and complex would be appropriate for downtown multi-level apartment building. There is no specific or prescribed long-term maintenance plan form, although the Ministry for Business Innovation and Employment website does include an example of the types of plans that might be used. In preparing this paper, I spoke to a number of people who prepare these plans, and I really wanted to understand a little bit about how they are worked up and made, and so how they are created and any issues that might come about in their creation and their use. Because as the solicitors, well, from my perspective, I very rarely get to see these plans or refer to them. And I was helped a great deal in doing this by Jeremy Waters, who's a director in the property services company Rawa Limited. So I'd just like to make the point of saying thanks to him for his contribution. So he explained to me about how these plans are evolved, that they start with, first of all, identifying the components of the property that are to be the subject of the plan. And the body corporate can choose to exclude certain information, just as I had talked previously about the complexities or otherwise of the plans. So working through identifying the components of the property and then preparing a cost schedule that's appropriate to each of these different components of the property. Then they'll have a look at the plan from the perspective of the costs over each year of the plan. And although a long-term maintenance plan must be for 10 years, it could perhaps be for a longer period of time. And in many circumstances, it would be appropriate that it was created for a longer period of time. For example, if it was important to cover off a couple of painting cycles, or if in this long-term maintenance plan it needed to deal with the maintenance of lifts, or something that had a long life, but the potential for significant costs. So, in developing the plan, they'll look at the requirements of maintenance over each year of the plan that would be different, and then providing a funding example for the body corporate, which is broken down and turned to the costs for each principal unit.